The most audacious conspiracy in colonial Virginia in the early 1600s began when John Rolfe, a struggling planter, found himself at the epicenter of a hidden pact that would alter the course of history. Rolfe, known for marrying Pocahontas, is often remembered for his role in the early tobacco trade. However, beneath the surface lay a murky web of deceit involving England's crown, the Catholic Church, and the native Powhatan tribes. In the fevered atmosphere of the New World, the English crown was desperate for wealth and stability. King James I, having ascended the throne, sought to expand his influence overseas. To do this, he endeavored to make tobacco the empire's new gold. Rolfe, seeing opportunity in this lucrative crop and wishing to impress the crown, began growing tobacco using seeds from the Caribbean. However, the early years were fraught with difficulty. Powhatan, the leader of the native tribes, viewed the settlers with suspicion. Engaging in trade could risk violent encounters. What Rolfe didn't realize was that his tobacco profits were fueling more than just colonial prosperity. Secretly, the crown had been negotiating with the Catholic Church, orchestrating a scheme to undermine Protestant dominance in the New World. In 1606, Rolfe, quite unwittingly, became the crucial player in a game of power, one that was intricately linked to a larger conspiracy. The plan was simple yet sinister. Profit from the tobacco trade would fund Catholic missions that aimed to convert or eliminate indigenous peoples, thus destabilizing Protestant settlements. Meanwhile, covert alliances were forming between Catholic sympathizers in England and their counterparts in the colonies, revealing a divide that would fester for decades. As Rolfe's tobacco began to flourish, so too did the fears of the Protestant leadership in Virginia. Rumors circulated of subsidies funneled to Catholic priests who were preaching to both settlers and Powhatan tribes, stirring up tensions. This shadowy alliance aimed not only at religious conversion, but also at a strategic insurrection against the Protestant settlers, threatening their very existence. The Protestant leadership, alarmed by this brewing conflict, convened secret meetings in the middle of the night. They were determined to root out the so-called Catholic threat before it could gain a foothold. The tension cracked like thunder in the humid air of Virginia, with night raids and clandestine meetings becoming the norm. John Rolfe, as both a prominent planter and the husband of Pocahontas, found himself in an impossible position, torn between his ambitions and the brewing storm. Ultimately, a clandestine agreement between the Crown and the Church was discovered, exposing the lengths to which both institutions would go to ensure dominance over the New World. A faction of Protestant settlers orchestrated a rebellion known as the Bacon's Rebellion in 1676, fueled by outrage not only against taxation, but against the perceived collusion between foreign powers. An echo of Rolfe's early struggles, but with vastly graver implications. This conspiracy, rooted in economic greed and religious fervor, paved the way for centuries of conflict that defined early American history. John Rolfe's role in the tobacco trade initially painted him as a beacon of hope for prosperity. Little did he know, his crops were part of a clandestine operation that fostered division and unrest that would ripple through the ages. The real legacy of the conspiracy forged in Virginia was one of resource exploitation and the tragic consequences of colonial ambition. The ripples of this conspiracy would stretch far beyond Rolfe's field, influencing colonial attitudes and policies for generations to come, shaping the United States into a land marked by strife and division even before it was born. This is just one chapter of a much darker past. Subscribe now, because the next story might change how you see history forever.